coming out of a homeless shelter 25 years ago, and I want to be able to give back. I'm on the board of Stepping Stone Shelter. I really want to be able to give back now to all those organizations that helped me. And I can share with you that not one of my residents today at this building that I so desperately wanted to give back to is Section 8. Because why would they come get a beautiful 3-bedroom apartment in the city when they can go get a beautiful, more larger 3-bedroom single-family home in the county? So make sure you broaden your niche. Ready? Okay.
May I share something with him? Can I just share one thing with him? If he wants to make it a larger, in other words, if he wants to convert it from 2-bedroom to 3 or 4-bedroom, that's work to me. I took a 6-unit building and turned it into 3 6-bedrooms in DC,
right.
And now I have the most unique kind of Section 8 offering, so I'm able to.
Right. Maybe you guys can talk a little bit afterwards, but absolutely. All right, we're going to have to go to default plan B, which, by the way, in real estate investing, you must always have a plan B and a default because things happen all the time, do they not?
Absolutely.
Hey, Darren, it's Tammy Phelps. Happy New Year. How are you?
Hi, Tammy. Nice to hear your voice. I'm doing well.
All right. For those of you that are in the back, we have to revert to a speakerphone. Are you able to hear Darren at all? Can you hear him? If you guys want to move forward, we could actually take these tables and pull them up forward, get a little bit cozier so that you could actually hear them. If you're fine sitting back there, we're going to have to improvise and just do the best that we can. Darren, thank you very, very much. Happy New Year to you. We're thrilled as always to have you here. You are going to have to speak up. It is a little bit distorted because it is a speakerphone, and I will do the best that I can to help moderate and get questions answered.
Sounds like a plan. We'll do the best we can with this.
All right, guys. So, Darren's our guest expert speaker for the night. Darren is, sought after by national media outlets. Him and RealtyTrack. RealtyTrack is the foremost authority as far as pre-foreclosure, foreclosure, and trustee sales. Every type of data you can think of relating to the market in today's times. RealtyTrack and Darren acts as a resource, go-to resource for them. They are contacted for this information. CNBC, CNN, MSNBC, and RealtyTrack is a strategic partner of District Korea, and we rely on them for research information, for market updates, and that's why we asked Darren to come on in January to give everyone a state of the market update for 2012. There are a tremendous amount of changes that are impacting markets across the country. There are new guidelines for the FHA that are impacting flipping timelines. There are market opportunities throughout the country, whether it be foreclosures in commercial or residential. So Darren's going to touch on as much as he can, as much as he has time to do so. And you are speaking to someone, again, that is very experienced in all these matters. So like I said, he's the one that they go to when they seek information from different media outlets. So Darren, without further ado, let me go ahead and turn it over to you. You have the ability to control your own slide deck. The audience here is watching the slide deck up on the screen. Again, if you can project as best possible, then we're going to go ahead and make do. We have a room packed full of hungry investors in this room. Why don't you guys say, hey, Darren.
Hey, Darren.
Hi, guys. Thank you so much for the warm welcome. It's always a pleasure to be talking to you guys. I always love hearing from real estate investors. I'm trying to become one myself a little bit ahead of one rental property and looking for further. So slowly getting into it. But we're out here in California, which is a slightly different market than what you guys are experiencing there in the DC area. But I'll just jump into this, and we'll, I have a lot to cover today, but I'll try to move through it pretty quickly. I want to look at, quickly, just a quick overview of the 3 foreclosure buying opportunities that are available to investors out there. A quick look at how you go about analyzing bargain and profit potential with a foreclosure property, how you contact lenders and homeowners, because buying these properties is different than buying a property listed on the MLS, as I'm sure a lot of you know. So I want to touch on some of the unique features that you need to do when you're buying a foreclosure, and then submitting offers and closing deals. And then I want to wrap it up with just a look at what we're expecting for 2012 in the foreclosure market. And that's a little preview for you guys that we're not coming out with our year-end report and 2012 projections until next week officially, but giving you guys a little bit of a preview of that earlier than anybody else gets it. So we'll jump into this. I'll give you a brief introduction to RealtyTrac. Go through these slides pretty quickly. We publish the country's largest database of foreclosures. We're collecting this data from the county level. We have people there in Maryland and Virginia picking up the data from the county offices there, the foreclosure data. Those counties cover 92% of the U.S. We have currently about 1.5 million properties on our website that are in foreclosure or bank-owned. And we have some great tools to help you evaluate whether a property is a good buy or not. One thing to clarify, and I mentioned this earlier, is we're not an MLS. These are not all the properties on RealtyTrac are listed for sale. A foreclosure property is, by definition, in foreclosure, it's distressed. It's an opportunity. However, it's an opportunity to buy. However, it's not necessarily a listed property. And this just goes into that in a little more detail. And in fact, the majority of the foreclosures are not listed for sale, which is a challenge as well as an opportunity. It's a challenge in the fact that it's a little bit tougher sometimes to pursue those properties, opportunity, and that you don't have as much competition. Just do a little bit of bragging about who relies on our data. All these publications and many more regularly use RealtyTrac data and look forward to our reports every month, as well as many government agencies that we provide data to. A lot of government agencies right there in your neck of the woods, in fact. So I'll try to pause every once in a while just to see if there's any questions. There may not be a lot of questions about RealtyTrac, but if there are, feel free to throw them out right now.
Anybody have any questions about RealtyTrac? Darren, you are going to show us a little bit later in the presentation some of the tools and resources that RealtyTrac has available, right?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. All right, awesome.
And we'll get into that pretty shortly here.
All right, let's roll.
Yep. So that's more about what RealtyTrac is. The three opportunities to buy are pre-foreclosure, when a property has started the foreclosure process, but before it has been taken back by the bank. Our reports, we track the sales of these properties, and in the second quarter, which is the most recent data we have, people who bought a pre-foreclosure, which is typically a short sale, the average price on those was 21% below the average price of non-distressed sales. And this is an opportunity where you can go in and you're buying directly from the homeowner who is in distress. But if it is a short sale, you're also getting agreement from the lender who owns the loan that they're going to let you buy the property for less than what's owed on the loan. So these are a great opportunity in a market like today's market. They're a totally different opportunity than in a market that's going up on the upswing. When home values are going up, a pre-foreclosure is usually not a short sale. It's an equity sale, and you're going in and allowing a distressed homeowner to walk away from a situation, but you actually take advantage of the fact that they may have some equity in the property. But in this market, where most homeowners are underwater, this would be a short sale. Then we have the foreclosure auction, which is usually called the trustee sale, or the sheriff's sale, depending on what state you're looking at. We have a lot of these properties on our website as well, excuse me. And you're actually going to the courthouse steps and bidding on the property there. In most states, you do have to pay the full payment in cash at that auction, which eliminates a lot of buyers, to be honest. But you often do see the more experienced, seasoned investors at those auctions, and it can be a great opportunity again to buy a property without as much competition as you would face when you're buying a property listed on the MLS. And I have talked to investors who will buy it in cash there at the auction and then turn around, and once they own the property, then they can take out a loan against the property. And then the last opportunity to buy a foreclosure is probably what I would guess most of you are the most familiar with, which is buying directly from the bank once the property has been foreclosed. This is we have the most of any of the foreclosure types of this property on our website with more than 675,000. And the other advantage of an REO, what's known as an REO or bank-owned property, is that they have big discounts. We're showing that in the second quarter of 2011, people who bought these REOs saved an average of 40% below the price of non-foreclosure properties. Part of the reason for this with the REOs is a lot of times they are in not in good condition or distressed condition. They may have been sitting vacant for some time, and so that's part of what's built into the discount with those REOs. But you as investors can step in and investors often are willing to take on those distressed properties, improve them, and then reap the benefits of the increased value of the property by either flipping them or renting them out.
Hey, Darren, can I stop you for a second?
Sure.
Question, do you have statistics on what the average timeline is from the time that an REO asset manager or negotiator receives a contract until the time that buyer is actually able to close? Do you have a timeline for that?
We do look at the time from the time a property becomes an REO to when it's sold. We don't know when the asset manager is assigned to the property, but the average time to sell an REO from the time it becomes an REO to closing is about 190 days.
About 190 days from the time that a buyer puts an offer on it and the time that it actually goes to settlement.
Well, from the time, that 190 days is from the time the property is taken back by the bank and becomes an REO to when the sale closes. And what I hear, what I hear in the industry as a rule of thumb is it takes the banks about 90 days to get that property ready for sale on average. So about half of that 190 days, they haven't even listed the property yet. The second half, they've listed the property, and then it takes another 90 days from the listing to when, to when the property is actually sold.
So knowing, I'm also a realtor as well, and I absolutely love RealtyTrack and use them all the time. So as a realtor, for example, or an investor agent, I'm an investor and I find a property on MLS and I'm used to being able to get them closed in 30 to 60 days. Now as an investor, I'm looking at 120, 160, sometimes even up to a year. What advice could you give an investor who could literally end up eating hot dogs and beans if they have to wait 6 months to a year to close on a deal?
Yeah, I think that's a very valid question, and I think that's the average time it takes to close. It doesn't mean that every deal is going to take that long, and there may be some. I guess the advice I would give is if you need a shorter time frame, which is understandable, if the deal is taking a long time to close, then you move on to and look for the next deal. You don't necessarily have to wait out that 190 days. Again, that is an average. There's some that sell a lot faster than that, and some that sell a lot longer.
Are you finding that a lot of investors in your area, because I know it's happening here, in our area where a lot of investors don't have time to sit around and wait, so they're actually putting in multiple offers, and when those offers get accepted on these REOs, they're actually turning around and assigning the contract or wholesaling it after they close on it.
Yeah, I have heard of that happening, although I'm sure you have much more knowledge in the specifics of that than I do. But I think there are strategies for investors to mitigate that, and I think that sounds like probably a good one.
Okay, thank you. Hey, I have a question from Cheryl.
What's the average time for a short sale from beginning to end?
What is the average time, Darren, for a short sale from beginning to end?
Yeah, that's a great question too, and it's actually, so if you thought 190 days was bad, the short sales we're showing are even longer. We're showing over 300 days, if you can believe it. Now, I have to qualify that by saying, we don't track from when it's listed, but from when it becomes a foreclosure, so when it enters the foreclosure process, to when it sells is over 300 days.
And that's on
average.
a national...
Now, that will include a time period where the homeowner is possibly in denial and not listing the property for sale. And so that's baked into that 300-day number.
Fantastic. Anybody else
And I
have any
do know
questions?
that's why investors, I don't know if it's true for all of you there, but many of the investors I've talked to shy away from the short sales for that reason and are more prefer either buying at the courthouse steps or buying from the bank.
We have a lot of heads bobbing up and down in agreement. I have another question from Tim. You're right there, Tim, so you might be able to.
Hi, Darren.
Hi.
For the past couple days, I've been looking at some websites at REO properties, and I've noticed that they're all listed at or above assessed value. It seems a little strange to me.
I'm sorry, I missed like every other word somehow. You were fading out there.
Tim was saying that he's been looking at a lot of websites over the last couple days at REOs, at REO properties, and they seem to be listed at the assessed value or above. Is there anything you can comment with regard to that?
Well, I think that in certain markets, we actually are seeing a shortage of REO inventory. And so the banks, I believe, feel like they're able to maybe price those properties a little bit more aggressively. But I think it's still a buyer's market, and so the feedback I've heard also is unless those REOs are priced right, they're not going to necessarily get a lot of offers. But it may be that the banks are, and I haven't looked at the DC market specifically, but I would guess is a market that's doing a little bit better than the rest of the country.
Yeah, I
the
can...
inventory is lower, and so the banks are looking at that and saying, hey, look, there's a shortage of this REO inventory out there compared to what we've seen in the past, and so we're going to price it closer to what we think the value of the property is.
And I can add to that, you are going to see that in this area. The DC market is is in the top 3 of emerging markets in the entire country. And so you're going to have a shortage of inventory, and when banks are losing billions and billions and trillions of dollars, and they see that they're in a market where the inventory is down, guess what they're going to do? They're going to raise the prices up to try to recoup some of those losses. And you will find it to be much more competitive in this area than it will be an hour outside of this market in the secondary ring or even the third ring. So great question. I have another question from Steve, Darren.
Darren, do you happen to know when DC is looking to open up its bank foreclosed properties? I understand that based on the city council law, you can't get title insurance for foreclosed properties.
The question is, apparently in DC you cannot get title insurance on a foreclosed property, and Steve is wanting to know if you have any information about when they're going to possibly open that up.
I do not. I've heard that in a couple other places, specifically Arkansas, which is kind of random. There's a big hubbub the title issues. And I had heard in general that lenders are being much more, or title companies are being much more cautious about providing insurance on foreclosures, but I did not, I'd not heard, at least in the DC market, that they had outright stopped doing that. I think, in the cases where they're doing that, they're looking at all of the controversy that's come up over the last year about the lenders allegedly improperly foreclosing on properties. And one thing I think that will help to ease that has been promised for a long time is the outcome of this Attorney General investigation into the lenders. All 50 state Attorney Generals, at least at one point, were involved in this investigation, and they're trying to reach a settlement with the major lenders. And they had announced a few weeks ago that they'd have a settlement reached by Christmas, but that didn't happen. And so I think if they can come, that's one thing out there that I think is a cloud hanging over the foreclosure market. If those attorneys general can come to a conclusion that and reach a settlement with the major lenders on that, I think that will free up title companies to be more willing to issue title insurance again on foreclosures. But again, that's actually news to me that they're across the board not issuing title insurance. That's kind of a surprise to me.
Any other questions? Unless you can, go ahead.
So, any other questions?
Yeah, just a quick question. Can you touch base on the anti-flip flop of foreclosed properties? A lot of them have special Fannie Mae and
I couldn't hear that one.
I'll repeat it.
a lot of Fannie Mae and HUD properties, after you buy them, you actually can't resell them for a period of 3 months. Can you please tell people a little bit about that?
Darren, the question is about the anti-flipping law for Fannie Mae properties and Freddie Mac properties, I believe. If you can touch on just the anti-flipping waiver that was extended.
Yes, that's a great question. I was going to touch on that later, but we might as well talk about it now.
Well, Darren, do you have a slide that you were going to cover later? If that's the case, you can.
I mean, it's just a bullet point, so it's not necessarily. Yeah, but actually, let's wait. We'll wait till later to cover that. I'll definitely cover that in detail.
Okay, Julie?
And if I don't cover what you're looking for, feel free to answer a question or ask the question at that time.
All right.
But I'll go ahead and go through some of it.
She smiled. She smiled approvingly, so you can move on.
What's that?
She smiled with an okay, so you can continue.
Okay. So just, when you're using RealtyTrack specifically, we provide a lot of tools to help you narrow down your search, not just foreclosures, but specifically the type of property, the location of property, the equity of the property, even the lender who's involved, the year built, all those things. I know Tammy has been in the past very involved in multifamily properties. You can search specifically for multifamily foreclosures on RealtyTrack, which I don't know if a lot of people know about that. And so we allow you to really narrow down your search to exactly what you're looking for. If you know that, for instance, related to the last question, that title companies are not issuing insurance on Bank of America properties, you may want to search for foreclosures that are with other lenders, and so you can type in a lender name there and just get the foreclosures that are owned by that lender. And then our map interface allows you to see exactly where foreclosures are listed, or I shouldn't say listed, but foreclosures are located in your area. And the map search allows you to, if you just want to see foreclosures that are listed for sale, you can just select that pin color, the orange pin color, and we'll just show you those properties that are listed for sale. We also have for sale properties. some people don't know that about Realty Track. Our main focus is foreclosures, but we have properties just listed for sale on the MLS as well that are not in foreclosure that you can search for in our interface as well.
Hey, Darren.
Yes.
On the previous slide, you were showing the search criteria, and you were highlighting the fact that you can search by lender name. Is it possible?
Yes.
Is it possible to also filter by the asset manager, like what properties they have?
No, we don't have that capability, unfortunately. That would be a great one. But when we're getting the foreclosure information, it's from the public record data.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, it's not identifying the name of the asset manager.
Okay.
So this is just a screenshot of a specific property. This one happens to be in Chicago. But this is a pre-foreclosure listed for sale. There at the top, it's flagged that it is being listed for sale. The list price. We also provide the estimated market value. And then we have an estimated equity that tells you if this property has equity. This one is actually one of the more rare ones that we estimate to have some equity in it. If it did not have equity, you'd see a negative number there instead of the positive $10,000. So that just means that the estimated value of this property is more than the combined sum of the loans that are outstanding on the property. So that's all great information to help you decide if this is the property you want to pursue or not. And then in our comp sales and listing tab, we have 3 different ways of looking at the estimated market value. Just based, the first one is just based on kind of a standard AVM or